everybody, we're ready to get started, so we can get finished. Are we on live?
Yeah, we are live.
And we're on Facebook Live. Welcome, everyone. First order of business, have you had a chance to look at the minutes so we can vote to approve them? Oh, motion to approve by Colleen Manley. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Pepe. All right, let's take a vote to approve the minutes. All in favor? All opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay, so this is, you should have the agenda on your table. This is, we don't have a ton of stuff to go over, but we have some good stuff to go over. We're going to talk about, we're going to present our budget for next year, present our slate for next year. But before we get into that, we've got Mr. Pepe here to give the principal report. You have to come to Facebook Live.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for having me. I'm representing both the high school and middle school this evening. So I'll speak on behalf of Mr. Alata first. He shared a couple different things with me. Obviously, it's a busy time of year for all the schools, but in particular the high school, obviously. Spring sports is coming almost to a close for some sports. As always, Glen Rock Athletics is doing really well. He also shared that Glen Rock High School was recently recognized by Grade Schools with the College Success Award for our work in preparing our students. Glen Rock High School was also recognized by U.S. News and World Report as one of the top high schools in the country. I believe you all, I think he pushed that out to the parents and it's on his Schoology page. So if you haven't seen the announcements, check it out. It's all over the website. 4 high school students, Kayla Park, Elizabeth Crowley, Carson Schraer, and Jack Blake accompanied Mr. Manziano to Orlando, Florida last week or the week before, where they participated in the Nationals for DECA. That's a pretty cool accomplishment for them, and I'm not sure if that's the first time in years that they've gone to Nationals. You would know? I think it is, yeah. And he's really building that program really well. And as a matter of fact, he meets with he started this about 2 years ago. He meets with his incoming freshmen every spring. So he'll meet with the 8th graders during lunch if he didn't do it already and explain what DECA is because he tries to build that program. He really likes to bring in the freshmen and get them excited for it in September. So it's a great club. And Mr. Arlotto invites everyone to the spring concert on Wednesday the 15th next week. Spring concert, I believe, begins at 7 o'clock in the auditorium. All right, that's a high school update. Middle school is a happening place too this time of year, as you can imagine. Once the weather gets nice, things get a little hectic for us, but you know, the kids are excited to finish up the school year on hopefully a strong point. So we just finished state testing today. In the middle school, we had math and language arts, obviously, but our 8th graders take a science state test, and we did that this week. I just finished makeups today. So it was a lot of sessions over the last 3 weeks, but we got it done. I'm not sure if you're aware, but our tech department works extremely hard to accommodate middle school testing. We turned the all-purpose room into a testing center with approximately 130 computers in there at once. And we try to test all the kids in there in one big setting because we don't have a one-to-one, so it's difficult. So we take all our laptop carts, put them in there, and we create sessions throughout the day. So it's pretty organized. We had a great middle school spring concert and art show last night. Students, of course, performed great, as they always do. Mr. Ficaselli had a special moment. I don't know if you all know, or if you were in attendance last night, but he did have a grandson about 3 weeks ago, and he writes songs for special occasions. So he wrote a song about his grandson, and sang it to the kids around 2 weeks ago in class, the 8th graders. And they're like, we should sing this at the concert. They learned it and they sang it last night. So he was really psyched about it. He's really good. Yes, there were a bunch. Yes, it did. There were a bunch of good solos too by 8th graders. Speaking of a solo, I have. We have incoming 6th grade orientation beginning tomorrow already, believe it or not. So 2 elementary schools are coming up tomorrow afternoon to get their introduction to 6th grade in the middle school. They'll listen to our band, our chorus, Dr. Ward, myself, and the guidance office will do a presentation. And then they get tours around the building, just like every middle schooler had over the course of their experience. That's run by, I believe, student government and honor society run those tours. So 2 schools come tomorrow, 2 schools come on Tuesday the 14th, and we have our parent orientation set for Tuesday night the 14th at 7 o'clock. So I know they're all excited about that. On May 15th is our homework free night. That's a district-wide homework free night. So if you want to plan something fun for the family, that's a good time for it. On Friday, May 17th, we have our famous middle school social. It used to be called Middle School Fling. So this is the spring social. It's open to all grade levels, but we all know that 6th graders all come and a handful of 7th graders come, and the 8th graders are too cool for it. But it's a great night for them. And as always, we say thank you to the HSA, because years ago when we started the Fling, you guys gave us the money up front to pay the bouncy house, the DJ, because it was a new thing we were bringing on. And we've since, I believe, we've raised enough money through funds that we now fund that now, but it all started with the HSA a couple years ago. So we appreciate that. On Wednesday, May 29th, I'm just going to give you some upcoming events. We have our yearly middle school talent show, which is exciting. A lot of planning goes into that, and Ms. Jaworski is in charge of that. She does a very, very nice job. June 6th is National Junior Honor Society induction. That's a great night. And June 11th, our 6th graders have a field trip to the Bronx Zoo. This is now, I believe, the 3rd or 4th consecutive year Mr. Valentino, our science teacher, plans that field trip for the 6th graders. They have an excellent time. We've always had nice weather. I hope June 11th they get that nice weather. When they come back from that, the next day we lose our 8th graders for 3 days, and they're going to Washington, D.C. They're very excited. The drama has started. They got to pick their roommates, so that was fun, and that's still going on. One thing I did want to touch on, Ms. Cook and Ms. Cruel, I spoke to them today. They confirmed that they are doing a sunset cruise. It's a dinner dance for the 8th graders, which is going to be very, very nice for them. And that dance is going to be their 8th grade dance. So, a couple years past, we had an event in Paramus on like random Monday and Tuesday nights. It was so random, and it was really the only open date they used to have for us. And we figured 90% of the 8th graders are going on this trip. Why not incorporate that into the trip, which is nice. And then the parents don't need to worry about paying for a dance as well. It's all tied into that expensive Washington, D.C. trip. So yeah, something's coming out about that. I actually have it right here. Good question. So it's, I think it was posted on Schoology. Ms. Cook told me that today. But the girls are encouraged just to pack sundresses, and the boys can just wear, something like I'm wearing. They don't have to wear long pants. It could be shorts. They'll be fine. We're actually looking into possibly having them get a drawstring bag for us to give them, and they can pack it in there, leave it in the bus, and then they can get changed. I'm not sure if they're going back to the hotel. They'll figure it out. It's not fancy. That's what I've been told. Nope. That's perfect. Oh yeah, whatever they want. Nothing fancy. They were told by the sunset, they're the only ones on the boat. It does not need to be. You don't need a bow tie for this one. And a lot of information is posted on the Washington, D.C. Schoology page. So if parents should all be on that. I believe they're looking for a lunch order for one of the lunches. If the children have allergies, always work with Ms. Cook. And we'll have a parent meeting for Washington, D.C. I have that here. Not Friday the 17th. Parent meeting is May 23rd at 6:30 in the middle school cafeteria. That'll be the final parent meeting for the Washington, D.C. trip. All questions will be answered. All right. And lastly, June 18th is our promotion. We're all excited about that. And the 8th graders end their middle school with a nice pool party, and we appreciate the HSA for your support with the pool party. All right. Any questions that I can relay to Mr. Alata for the high school, or any questions for the middle school? Yes. For DC is 6:30 in the cafeteria. Sure, no one has any questions. Oh, I wanted to talk about the donations that are on the agenda for the middle school, for the lunch, board games, and games like that. Okay, so Dr. Ward, I don't know if you're aware, but the HSA donated some games for the children to play during study lunch. And now that we're back outside for recess, you know, they're not itching to be using those, but we're gonna create a schedule with Dr. Ward and Ms. Mitchell on how kids could sign out the games and have them for study lunch and then put them back. We're gonna figure something out. But we appreciate it and thank you for the donation. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
All right, we'll do our Board of Ed. We'll do our Board of Ed report with Megan Findlay is going to step in for Ed Hayward tonight.
Now I'm planning on this, but I scribbled some notes. Since Ed's not here, I can step in. I'll just note a couple of things that happened at some recent board meetings and things that we've been up to, but I'm happy to take questions as well, either to answer or to take back to the board if folks have feedback. At our last meeting, we did approve the budget for the coming year. Again, just off the top of my head, because I wasn't preparing in advance, but there are a couple of things in this budget, lots for the elementary school, but I'll focus on a couple of things for the middle school and high school. An additional SAGE counselor, extra math help for struggling students at the middle school, extra gifted and talented support at the middle school, and laptops at the middle school that will bring us up to a 1-to-1 ratio in the middle school. They will not get a laptop to bring home like the high school because they're middle schoolers, but they'll have them out in carts so that every classroom will have enough laptops that, and they don't have to say, oh, I can't have the laptops because another class is using them. Any class, any teacher that wants to incorporate laptops in their classroom will be able to do that without constraints. And then a security system. I know Leslie's going to talk about the school safety issues, but there's a really great security system. I can't talk too much about it, but sort of communication and alerts that went into the budget. I know that's a topic that we're thinking and talking a lot about, always, unfortunately, but that's something we put in the budget to really up our game on that. The referendum bond decision was also made. As folks know, the referendum passed in March. The board is feeling very good about that because it's important projects we'll be able to do, including in here. One of the things that we had to do was make a decision on whether it was a 15-year bond or a 20-year bond. And if folks saw this news, I just wanted to clarify because the article that came out missed some facts. We did go with the 15-year bond decision. That does mean that a monthly payment is higher, you pay it off faster. Now, what that's offset by is the fact that the interest rate is a lot lower than it was when we made the estimates. So when we came out and we told everybody about the referendum and we said there's a 15-year scenario and a 20-year scenario, so we were upfront about that, and we gave estimates of what the impact would be on the taxpayer, we estimated a certain interest rate for that. Well, the interest rate we're getting is a lot lower than what we used for those estimates, so that's fantastic news. So we're able to go with the 15-year faster payoff, but because of the lower interest rate, the payment that you're paying is still lower and within the ranges that we gave everybody in advance. So if you thought, oh gee, because they chose the 15-year, that means it's going to be even higher taxes than they told me, no. In the range that we told everybody, and the offset is what allowed us to do that. So we're glad that this is going to be an even lower long-term impact on the taxpayer. As folks know, we did also have the superintendent hire. Board's been on fire this year. I believe he's coming. Yeah, good. That's what I thought. So if folks want to have a chance to meet him, and I think he'll take questions.
Yep, and that is May 22nd.
Yeah. So Dr. Brett Charleston, we're very excited for him to join. He'll be official in July, but he's starting his listening tours and starting to learn about the district. Also, folks may have attended the presentation by guidance that happened at not the most recent board meeting, but I think the one before that. And I did want to let folks know that the feedback was heard during that conversation. And Larry Wolf has actually told the board about a couple of changes that he's making as a result of that, including earlier parent presentations on college preparation, upgrades to the website that our new website communications person will be able to put into effect. And I believe Naviance training for parents. That was another ask. There were a couple of other things too, but again, I didn't prepare for this. That's what I remember off the top of my head. So for everybody who came and gave the feedback and some things that were able to come out of that, thank you. Any questions?
Can I ask a question about stage?
I may not be able to answer it.
That's fine. I never really understood who they are, why they're here, how they interact with
Mental health support that is contracted in. Any more about it than that?
middle school and high school, or
There's a
High school, I thought.
there is so there's two stage that work with children who are on the case, and we have one which is a staff counselor, who's Helen, and she works with all students. And there's an application process. All those through the office.
It allows us to provide more mental and emotional health counseling than the regular guidance counselors would be able to provide, and folks who are specially trained to handle situations. So in terms of us making sure that we're up in our game on that in particular, in accordance with our goals, putting the extra resources against it was important. Anything else? Okay, thank you guys.
All right, so tonight Leslie Schraer, she is on the school safety committee. She meets with her committee. You can tell everybody and you can give us a
I didn't know I was looking at a camera. It's really painful. It's a bad angle. Like you want it to be up there. I mean, seriously.
I wore white.
I can't even look at it. It's painful. All right. So there's a school safety committee at Safety Wellness. There are teachers from both middle school, high school, special ed, gen ed, Tina, and a parent, which is myself for this year. And so basically, there are a variety of different things that the school safety committee has talked about this year. Some of the things, the programs that have been put in place this year through the school safety committee. There's been some presentations. In March, there was just one. It was sponsored by Budweiser about drunk driving for 11th and 12th graders. I don't know if any 11th and 12th graders went home and told their parents about it, but apparently it was very well received. There's been a number of other presentations during the year, but that's the most recent. There was also a panel that was here about a month ago about vaping. So that's kind of what I wanted to focus on, because there was so much good information. Like I was there, it was so much good information that I felt like if I was going to share anything in an HSA meeting, like that would be the most important thing to share. So I don't know. I pulled out a couple of, how do I get to your?
Oh, Mr. Pepe.
Oh, okay.
My computer didn't work.
Okay, so it's fine. I can totally just,
Sorry.
it's okay. So basics, if anybody is interested in, I put around, there's a slip with all the people that were on the panel and their email addresses. So if you have any questions, any time ever about vaping policies in the school, the effects of vaping, you're worried your kid is vaping, you found vape pods and you don't know what to do, these are resources who put themselves out there, are happy to answer any questions. The gist of it, and I have, I also have a couple of slides that I can email to anybody who wants it. You can come up to me or you can tell Heidi.
Can we put this on our HSA website?
Yeah, that's what we'll do. Okay, so a couple of main highlights, things that I thought were really interesting about it. So kids vape for like various different reasons. Some of the reasons that they went over in the panel were to fit in, obviously, to relieve stress and anxiety. They start off because they think it's fun, because there's like fun fruity smells. Oh, and if you don't know what vaping is, electronic cigarettes, e-cigs, all those are words for jewels, are all vapes. There's the presentation slides that I have that I'll share have pictures of different types so you can like identify them. And essentially, once the kids start, the percentage of children who are vaping, who go on to smoke cigarettes or do other drugs is insanely high. The vaping itself, the nicotine that's in, so most kids will say that their vape doesn't include nicotine, but what they told us on the panel was that's pretty much not usually the case. A lot of times kids don't even know what are in the vapes that they're vaping, which is really dangerous because so many horrible carcinogens, as well as the nicotine. Nicotine levels from kids who vape is much higher. Their bodies are taking in so much more nicotine than when they smoke cigarettes. There's no regular, I guess it's like not regular, like you smoke one cigarette, you know exactly how much is in there. A pod can be, is a certain amount, but there's no stop button on it. There's no like, okay, you've smoked a cigarette, stop. So I guess the amount of nicotine that's going into their little bodies is a lot higher. And the effects of the nicotine are, and I have this all on the slide, and I was hoping to read it off, but there's, it's like stressful, they have increased stress, there changes in their appetite, changes in their grades, changes like in their moods. There's all these things that nicotine addiction does to you. And what I think it was Mrs. Helder was talking about, which I thought was really interesting, is that if you catch your child vaping and you just tell them to stop, in some cases that's pointless and meaningless because your child is probably addicted to the nicotine. So just like any other addiction, they're going to find it however they can. So there's an element of support that sometimes is needed, and she's available. If your child is vaping and they're doing it and they're addicted to nicotine, they may need a way to get off the nicotine. Just like quitting smoking cigarettes, it's the same exact thing, except they're younger, and I guess the amount of nicotine in their blood is really high. So essentially, the moral of the story was like, be on the lookout, things that they told us to look at. And I'm literally like memorizing this from here. What I did was what to look for. Sweet, fruity smell of vape juice. Unusual chargers, discarded pods, which are these little squares, and other device parts. One of the, I think it was the police officer was saying that one of the things, if you ever see frayed wires in your house, or like it looks like a charger that was in your thing that kind of like fell apart a little bit, that's a signal, because the kids have figured out a way to take a charger into like a computer charger or a telephone charger and fray the wires and use the wires to charge their vape, so they don't have to have the stuff at home. They said look for empty canisters, things like tennis ball cans and so forth. The kids tend to put those things in things that they can put on their shelf, and moms and dads won't notice and won't think anything of it. A friend of mine just found 26 vape pods in her perfect student, straight A student, Tiffany jewelry box. So they're smart. They know how to get around things. And what you can do is be equipped with the facts. Decreased caffeine use was another thing to look for. I don't know how much. I mean, that was an interesting one. Use of vaping lingo on social media, changes in appearance, behavior, mood, friends, and appetite. Look for online purchases. That's where they're buying it. They're buying it online, or they're buying gift cards and going online and buying with the gift cards. Okay, so what can you do? Be equipped with the facts, have conversations, listen instead of lecture, and use open-ended questions, and provide the professional assistance for them, because if they are addicted, they will need it. Convey clear expectations, provide healthier ways to address their reasons for use, help your child develop refusal skills, be a good role model, provide consistent messages from both parents. That was something that they talked a lot about, is that both parents have the same, they give a couple of examples of how it doesn't work when one parent is more trying to better than the other. So I by no means am an expert. Everything I learned was in that panel, but I just thought it was so helpful and so interesting. And I just had a friend who just went through it, and I was able to give her all the information that I got at the panel and give her the resources that were given to me. So I just think it's really important that we all connect and share, because I think we probably all know, if it's not a child in our own home, one of our friends' kids who are dealing with it, it's like Mr. Pepe said it's like starting in the 7th grade, he's seeing it. So it's definitely something that our kids are around every single day. And they're catching kids in the bathroom all the time. They went through the whole process of what they do. If kids get caught vaping, they send them out to get drug tested. because they don't know what they're inhaling, and the only way to find out is through a blood test. So that's what they're doing. And if they come back and there was any sort of nicotine, parents are counseled on what they could do for that. If it comes back with any sort of THC or anything else is in there, parents are given the options of what to do for that as well. They're not involving like the police in it. It's really just to help the kids and support kids. So that's all I know. I know everything I just told you guys, but I'm gonna give Heidi the slides and you guys have any questions? Is it Backless or Backless? Backless, thank you. She's great, Tina. She said anybody who has a question, if they don't even know where to go, email her, and she will make sure that you get answers from somebody who knows the answer. So that's all. Oh, and just the other thing was a survey went out to parents, students, and teachers about the school climate. 150 parents filled out the survey, almost 100% of the student body, and 80 staff members. And so we have all the data, and we're compiling it and analyzing it right now, and so they'll have a readout on it. But it's basically to assess lots of different elements of like both social, emotional, educational, and I guess behavioral to some extent issues that are in the school. So.
And will we get a report?
Yes, you will. I think that the goal is to figure out what the action items are out of the data first, and then to present the data with what the action items are. So my guess is, and then those things will be implemented in the fall. So that is, okay. I'll repeat it too. Yes.
And also it's illegal for any vendor to sell. So that was like, one thing that seems like air conditioning for kids. Not that it's the worst, but you have to tell them that part. But you can say, like, listen, there's a part of the law, my what you're buying,
Yep. And the upperclassmen sell it to the younger kids. Yes, that's pretty much the method. The other thing that I thought was interesting is the police officer was saying that if they see kids vaping in town, they can't, so it is not against the law to be vaping. It is against the law to purchase it. And so they're working on the laws and trying to catch up with, trying to catch up, always playing catch up. So that was just interesting. A lot of parents were asking, well, if you see kids, and they're like, well, it's not that simple. So yeah, do they call them, if they see them doing, do they call them over and potentially call parents? Yes, but there's no real accountability or recourse. Anyway, so that's all.
Thank you.
Guys.
So next up on the agenda is the budget, and here she is. I say our treasurer just ran out of the room on a call, so she's back. So Sarah Mason is our treasurer, and this is her budget. No, kidding. Blame everything on her. No, you can blame it. Go ahead.
I can start with the budget then. So we made a couple changes from what we've done last year and in prior years. We increased our HSA fundraiser to $10,000 for next year. It was at $5,000 this year, and I'll talk about that later, and Heidi will talk about that later. But we have some plans there. We decreased our membership dues, which again is in line with where we've been the last couple of years. So we took it from $10,000 to $8,000 for next year. We increased our spiritware fundraiser from $1,000 to $2,000, again in line with where we have been actual. And then on our community school test prep, which was a little new this year, we did it with community school instead of with, I think, Catalyst in the past. And it was very successful, and we're thinking we might be able to do a little more even with it next year. So we took that up from $400 to $1,000. On the expense side, we increased our CHIPS newsletter from $350 to $600, just more in line with where our actuals were. We left our wish list at $15,000, where it was last year. We added a new line item, which is in line with our HSA fundraiser for $5,000. It's a new health and wellness initiative we were hoping to start next year. We decreased our Federated HSA dues from $600 to $450, again, in line with where we're expecting it to be next year. And then we made a couple of small changes to hospitality. We decreased our 6th grade social from 500 to 0 because we didn't really run anything this year, although we had some plans potentially for next year. And we increased our 8th grade pool party from 500 to 1,200, which is in line with where we ended up this year. So that's our budget. It leaves us with a net loss of $6,400, again, in line with where we've been in previous years. We expect to end the year with about $15,000, maybe a little more. So it still puts us, even with that loss next year, would still put us with a bit of cash, about $10,000 in cash. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Questions? Easy. Yeah.
So will this be posted on the website?
Yes, so the budget will be posted on the website, and then we'll actually vote on this budget at our last meeting, which is in June. Thanks, Sarah.
You're welcome. Do you want me to do this month's report?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So that not much happened since our last report. We have $21,648 in cash. Just a few expenditures. We spent $2,100 on a wish list item, which was calming corners for our guidance classes. We spent about $550 on that ice cream secret surprise that was on Monday. And we made a donation, which is our annual donation to TikTok for $300. And then I have about a $500 or so check for food supply, which was a fundraiser that we did this year, which hasn't been deposited yet. So that's it. Any questions?
The food supply fundraiser was actually a bit of a surprise because I don't know if you guys even know what that is. We promoted it a little bit at the beginning of the year. We partnered with a company that does online sales of things. Like it's actually stuff you would want to buy if you needed it. Cute totes, some kitchen items, some home decor stuff. But they give you 50, yeah. And we didn't really promote it. We promoted it a few times in the beginning of the year. They give you 50% of what's spent in your fundraiser. So we got $450 for doing nothing. And for just buying, and it's not, yeah, it's not junk. It's not like
Wrapping paper.
yeah. So that was nice. And so, like Sarah said, so just to remind you, we have not fundraised, like had a big fundraiser for several years. We did a direct ask, I think 2 years ago was kind of our big fundraiser. We decided not to do a fundraiser last year. And, you know, part of the reasoning for not doing a fundraiser last year, even though we were going to have one and then it didn't work out, but also we are carrying a cash balance and we want to spend that. We don't want to hit parents up constantly for money and not spend it. That being said, we do want to make sure that we have money in the bank and that we, you know, don't run it too lean. So we decided next year would be a fundraising year, and that in connection with that, this year, as you may recall, we tried to have a parallel theme or initiative for some of what we're doing that mirrored what the district was trying to do and increase their focus on wellness, well-being. So we adopted that as well for ourselves. And we did 2 main events this year. Right before the holidays, we did a secret surprise, and it was so well received. Jackie ran it. We had great volunteers. Kids, teachers loved it. And so then we just did Ice Cream Day. Stasha basically helped me enormously. Thank God for you, or we would have been in Teterboro, long story, but we actually, we pulled that off on Monday. It was another huge success. And, you know, one of the challenges we have, and it's good and bad, is that we have a great district and they don't come to us in the middle school or the high school needing money. You know, and also middle school and high school isn't like elementary school. There's just a different type of need and a different, less opportunities, especially for like parents to get involved in the school and, you know, sometimes to even feel involved or feel connected. So I also think there's not a lot of like warm and fuzzy stuff. And, you know, they're not little kids, but they are under stress. They are working really hard. They do have tons of activities. So we kind of thought doing some of the lighter things might be well received. And as it turns out, they are. So next year, we want to actually have a wellness budget and be able to do more of these things. But in order to do that, we need to fundraise. And we also think that a fundraiser should really be tied to specifics. It's kind of hard to say, all right, we just want some money, we'll let you know how we're going to spend it. So that brings me to one thing I wanted to bring up tonight is we've been contacted by a few parents who have brought really great ideas to the HSA. One parent, you know, was so impressed by Ms. Helder's conversation that she, you know, came to the HSA and said, how can we do this again, but have it be for parents, sort of like a parent group or a parent support group, because, you know, that meeting was well attended. Parents had a lot of questions. We probably could have kept her there for hours if we could have. And other parents have brought different things to the HSA, as well as the town wanted to get our help in bringing a screening of a movie called Angst, and we're trying to figure out a way to help do that. That's part of the Stigma-Free Glen Rock initiative, but it's focused on anxiety and stress, which keeps coming up over and over again. So we want to get this wellness line item in the budget, and then we want to have a steering committee made up of parents that, you know, care about these matters, that can help us develop activities, bring in speakers, and just make it meaningful and valuable for parents for what they think would help them support their students better, or help us be a support to their students in the schools in the ways that maybe the middle school or the high school isn't able to, or doesn't have the funds, or is willing to let us, you know, experiment and see how, can we come in and do ice cream? You know, they were very nice to let us do that, and it turned out to be a big hit, something we're going to do again. So if you would like to be on the steering committee, just email the HSA. We're going to try to get that committee put together. I don't know if it'll meet before the end of the school year, but we want to make sure that we can hit the ground running next year with this initiative. Any questions? No? The next thing I wanted to cover is we're going to present the proposed slate of next year's executive board. And then at our final meeting, we will vote on the slate. We will also accept nominees at the last meeting if there are additional nominees that come out of, you know, people being aware that there's an election happening. And I just have to thank Angela Vila, because she has been our nominating chair and been shaking the trees and calling people and begging them. And yes, and yeah, no, it's I never see her, so yeah, it's easy. No, it's not easy, but so we had a couple people graciously offer to help out with the board, and for whatever reason, scheduling or the level of commitment didn't work with their schedule. So here's where we're at. No one else would be president, so I'm stuck now. Jen Scher would stay as executive vice president. Holly Goshen would stay on as vice president. Leslie Schraer would be a new member of the board, and Michelle Saboth would join as secretary. Jackie Pappas would move to treasurer because Sarah is leaving us next year. and Sandy Stern would remain as emeritus. So as you can see, we are still in need of a vice president, and part of this particular vice president role is to be our federated representative. The Federated HSA, which is the umbrella HSA organization, every HSA has a officer position with Federated, and it's on a rotating schedule. So different schools have different obligations every year. Next year, we will be in charge of the online directory, which is a sizable job, but it's over soon when the school year starts. So you work hard in the beginning of the year, and then your duties are pretty much done, at least the heavy lifting. I think it kind of has a bad reputation, but we moved to online. This will be our third year online, and I am told that the process is enormously smoother and easier and more manageable than it has been in the past. So we would love somebody to step up and take on that role. We would love it. We'll take anybody, but we would love also if there's a middle school parent. It's a great way to get involved on the board, and I really enjoy being on the board because you really know what's going on and you feel like you're making a difference. So it is fun. Which I never thought I would say, but it is. No, it's fun. So if you know of anybody, or if you're thinking yourself that you might be willing to take on the job of our federated officer next year, we would love to hear from you. So just email us, please. Or you can also reach out to Angela, or you can reach out to me personally. Like I said, your job on the handbook was done by when? When do you think? October? Yeah, so launch is in October. So really you start, around the beginning of the school year, maybe a little bit earlier, and September is a busy month, and then you're done. So it's not so bad. Like I said, this slate will be voted on in our next meeting in June. Old business, reminders. I just wanted to highlight the HSA has been giving out little sweet nothings to our teachers once a month, and they really appreciate it. Sandy Stern has been the one putting them together and coming up with the ideas. They're adorable. They're very sweet.
Not by myself. I do have 3 other people.
Yes, and she has a committee of people that she's making do them. No, I'm kidding. Invites them over, pours them a glass of wine, and says, here, stuff, 150 little bags. But no, it's been really nice. We just got a really sweet email from somebody in the high school saying how nice it was to be remembered. And this is also under, the general wellness umbrella. We thought it was a good idea to do it this year because, as you may recall, when the school year started off, we had the contract stuff, and we wanted to make sure that our teachers understood that we do value them and appreciate them. And then that's just a picture of Dr. Wirt and Ms. Mitchell and I with all the stuff that the HSA donated to the library. So hopefully they'll get that schedule going and the kids can use them soon. I'm sure the kids would rather be outside right now, but it is nice to have alternative for kids who either can't go outside for whatever reason, or don't want to go outside, or just feel like having kind of a quiet day and whatever. There's all these games. And I have to say that idea came up at an HSA meeting. A parent suggested it because she said, not every kid wants to go in the gym and run around. I thought it was a great idea. Everybody thought it was a great idea. So there are your ideas in action. And before we adjourn, I just want to point out that we do have a lot of stuff coming up. Mr. Pepe touched on most of it. I just want to highlight 2 things, really 3 things. The Federated HSA meeting on May 22nd. Dr. Charleston is reported to be coming to that. If you didn't come to the Board of Ed meeting where he was introduced, I highly recommend you try to go to the Federated meeting. He, you should meet him. He's going to be our new superintendent. I thought he seemed really genuine and really accessible. I'm excited for him, so I would highly recommend you come to that. On May 28th is the parent-teacher book group. The book is The Coddling of the American Mind. We have a link on our website, or you can just go directly to Amazon and order it. And as I understand, you read the book, you come that night, and you talk about it with teachers and other parents who have also read it. So it was a big hit in years past. I haven't done it before. I plan to do it this year. I'm looking forward to it. And then lastly, this week is Teacher Appreciation Week, but because of AP testing, some of the things that the HSA likes to do for teacher appreciation is kind of lost when they can't make announcements and do some of the fun stuff. So we push that to after the AP exams. So that's coming up. We're going to have staff appreciation breakfast. There will be a call for donations of baked goods, sweets, savory breakfast casseroles, bananas, clementines. Another email will go out about that, but if you want to bake for that, don't forget that date. And unless there are any questions, oh my gosh, Colleen Manley is here to tell us about the Federated. Yeah, I'll do it. You don't have to do it.
You are the first to hear. On behalf of Federated, I wanted to let you all know we are actually going to do the Federated Jets game again in the fall. Why am I telling you this now? Because it's for the Jets versus Giants game. Going to be the Sunday of fall break. So if you're going to be in town and you want to do that, that's going to be, but the thing is, we're just selling the tickets. It'll start this weekend and go for 2 weeks. Why are we doing that? Because we're going to reserve a block of seats and we need them to be prepaid. We can't put ourselves at risk for saying, oh, we'll get 200 people and then be liable for it. So we're just opening up the opportunity that if you'd like to go to the Jets versus Giants game in this group, you can prepay for tickets. I will tell you that we can't give any refunds, so if you change your plans, but you can sell those tickets and just tell us who the new owner is and we can do that. So we'll be sending out, and we're doing it through Eventbrite, and there's an FAQ. So, that sort of really goes into it more, but I just wanted to let you guys know we'll be announcing it this weekend, and it'll be going on till Memorial Day Monday. Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Yes. We had 90 people go this year in the block, so it was fun. Yeah, we earned $435 for Federated, and this year that actually went to cover the expenses for promoting the referendum. We used them for like the signs. I think that's what the signs and the luncheon. But the intent is that if there is not a dedicated purpose, it goes to reducing the dues of all the schools that they pay into Federated. So it does just come back to the school, or it is used for a purpose approved by Federated. Okay. Yeah, it's November 10th, and it's the Jets versus Giants, and all the details will come out through all the different HSAs this week. And you don't have to be a member of the HSA. I mean, obviously, I'm not encouraging that. I'm just saying it's open to anybody who wants to buy the tickets. And again, it's just being prepaid because we're just going to reserve the amount of seats we sell. We're not going to buy more. Okay.
Thanks, Colleen. Oh, yeah. Yep, I will. Megan Findlay has one more thing to add.
Yes, I do. I should have included this with my board update because I like to make a pitch for folks to come to board meetings. And the next board meeting is actually conveniently next week. But the date is different. It is normally Tuesday nights, but next week it was moved to Monday night. So I think that's the 13th. And so if you can come, great, but I didn't want you to come on Tuesday and be surprised that no one is there. 8 o'clock usual time for public.
Thanks, Megan. Okay, yeah, and Mona reminded me to remind you, the HSA sent out a survey. It's in the latest blast you got from us. I think we've sent it twice, maybe. You might have 2 different emails that reference it. Please take it. We value your feedback, so it'd be helpful to us if you could just take 2 minutes to take it. Otherwise, if I can get a motion to adjourn. Wow, everybody. Kathy, seconds. Megan, all in favor? All right, thanks, everybody.
Is this for me or is it you back? I took a screenshot of it, so. I don't know.